Hey friends, what's up? My name is Elektrotechnica, and today I would like to deep dive into some tech talk. Before I start, I'd like to thank everyone who streamed Sped Up Dance lately. We passed 200,000 streams and the baby keeps growing, so thank you very much. This is the first episode I'm recording actually on my new setup. Yes, I switched from Windows to a Macbook Pro M2 Max. I always loved working on Windows, but the possibilities I'm getting with this M2 Max chip are just astronomical. I redesigned my whole signal processing inside Ableton Live to make musical and technical use of the CPU power. This means I have set up a default session template in Ableton Live, which gives me customized track processing for audio and MIDI tracks automatically every time I create a new track inside a project. My signal chains are full of colorizing plugins now, right off the box, so better sound and feel without even starting mixing. What I have basically done was to emulate an analog studio setup, but with enhanced AI magic on top. So getting best of vintage and modern times. Each channel starts with a transformer emulation, which is a part many, if not most plugins don't emulate separately, but is so crucial to the overall color. Then there is a multi-track tape machine emulation for that analog compression and saturation. And after the tape machine, like in those legendary old school studios, I hooked up an SSL console channel strip emulation. You know, like those huge ones you can see on every cool vintage studio photo of your favorite artist. The plugin I'm using not only emulates the sound of the channel strip itself, but also the technical imperfection and tolerance range of up to 72 channels. So in fact, it's not just a channel strip, but a console emulation. Because, you know, on a real console, there are technical tolerances for all components, and each channel sounds different and produces natural phase behavior, resulting in a richer and wider sound. Isn't that brilliant? Anyways, the plugin massacre doesn't end here. So after each SSL console instance, there is a Pultec EQ emulation, which not only does magic without even touching a knob, but also gives you awesome lows and highs. After the Pultecs, another very characterful and legendary device is inserted, an emulation of the 1176 FET compressor. Sitting there doing nothing with even the attack turned off, it's just colorizing the sound just like the Pultecs and adding that special shine that producers love about the 1176ers. The last thing on every channel is a tube saturation plugin. When grouping tracks, for example drums, vocals, instruments, etc., I'm also using default plugin chains for each group with compressors specifically serving what is needed. So for example, an API 2500 emulation for the drums, because they're very punchy, and an LA2A style compressor for vocals. And of course an emulation of the legendary tube compressor called Fairchild to fatten and glue the sounds even more. My secret weapon though seems to be the plugin emulating Chandler's Germanium compressor. Boy, it kicks the hell out of my drums and even on my master bus. It's such a monster, you only believe it when you try it out for yourself. Well, that's the analogish stuff, but there is one more thing. Usually when doing the final mix, you would use numerous EQs to carve out important parts from certain instruments to make room for the kick, the bass, vocals, etc. Basically, to eliminate any competing frequencies based on what you want to stand out. But that's a very time-consuming work, and to be honest, most of the time I only do it for the most critical aspects, like kick and bass. But there is a unique plugin out there called Smart EQ 3, which does that job with the help of AI. You can put multiple instances across your tracks and groups, prioritize them in the group view of the plugin, and let the plugin automatically calculate the ideal curves for all your instances, so you get a much clearer sound and frequency spectrum. This is really a huge benefit and adds up amazingly on all that analog firework going on before. My master bus is wrapping up the whole song by compressing with the SSL bus compressor, and the very end of the chain is a mastering tape machine emulation. So not a machine built for multiple tracks, but only one for the master channel, like the pros used to record back in the days. This last piece of gear puts on the final glue, some low-end boost, and a last pinch of tape compression and saturation. Yeah, this is quite a lot, and I spent weeks to study all of that and test different plugins and get to know them and what they actually do to my signals. And now I'm finishing a new song, the first one produced on the Mac with this setup, and I can't wait to put it out. And with all the heavy load on the CPU, guess what? Ableton only eats up 70% of the CPU power. Goodbye DSPs, I would say. This is a very technical episode, and I hope someone out there is being interested in all of that. It's just such a big deal for me. I simply had to share it in this podcast. So yeah, keep an eye out for the new song called Superpower and stay electrified.